Welcome back everyone, I'm James the Tie Guy, and today we have a vehicle to take a look at. This is the upcoming Imperial Combat Assault Tank. This is the newest vehicle to be released in the 2018 the Vintage Collection line. This is actually starting to ship now from several different retailers like Entertainment Earth, and they are due to be hitting stores in the coming weeks. I'm not sure exactly which stores will get them, especially now that here in the States Toys R Us went out of business. These come in at $79.99 retail, so it's a higher price point, and I know a lot of retailers like Walmart don't like to stock stuff that's quite that expensive all the time, or they'll stock little of it because they're not sure how well it's going to sell. So I'm not sure where it's going to land. I think smaller toy stores like independent mom and pop type ones are going to be getting them. Target probably has a better chance than Walmart because they tend to not be as liberal with these more expensive type toys. It is a really nice vehicle though, and it is a high price for it, but I do think it's justified, and I'm going to get into the reasons why. We have the artwork here, of course, on the box, which is standard the Vintage Collection artwork. It's very nice, reminiscent of that from the late 70s and 80s. You've got the silver striping going around here, and then a scene here which is recreating similar to how they did on the vintage vehicles. Of course, these are more new era figures. And then on the sides here you have different features showing the figures in it. They make sure to let you know that none are included, which I see as a kind of a missed opportunity. I think for the price it should have had at least one figure. If you look here, it talks about hatches that are removable, let you see the engine, and of course on the back side here is where you've got the Vintage Collection logo there on the right. Rotating cannons, what they call a hidden storage compartment, and then working treads. So that is the box. I'm going to set it off to the side here so we'll have a little bit more room, and we'll bring the tank back here. Now there is a Vintage Collection figure coming out that is going to work with, or designed to work with this, the Tank Commander. It's going to be super articulated like all the figures from that line, but for now I'm using the Tank Commander figure that came with the Jetta Revolt 4-pack. It had Saw Gerrera 2 tubes, this figure, and then Jen Urso in her Jetta outfit. I was able to pick the 4-packs up for around $10 each on eBay, and I had one already and I bought another so I could at least fill these two positions here. Now it does hold a third one like we've seen on the package, but since he's not visible, I didn't bother to get a third one yet. Now the tank itself has a nice heft to it. It definitely it doesn't feel as hollow as some of the other vehicles. I haven't weighed it, but it's easily a couple pounds. When it comes, it's mostly assembled. These two guns on the side pop on. They're separate in the box, and then of course these containers are separate. The canisters are already in them, which I'll get to that. The kyber crystals. This tank was made for basically is for hauling these kyber crystals from the mine to the waiting Star Destroyer to be taken for processing to power the Death Star super laser. Now if you look here, you see a lot of detail that you're not going to get on your typical Hasbro toy. You've got weathering here, which a lot of it, some of it seems to be hand applied. I mean, you've got weathering all over it, all the way from the scrapes on it, like from where, you know, it's a pretty low to the ground vehicle. Some I seen were talking about that it looked too low, but I went back and rewatched the scene in Rogue One, and this thing really, it sets on the ground. You would think it has airbags almost, it's so low to it. And the reason being is this is a tank for the urban environment. This isn't like the Abrams that the U.S. Army has, an MBT type. This is for urban environments. It's made to navigate small city streets, so it needs to be low to the ground for clearance, and it also needs to be fairly narrow, and that's why this tank isn't that big. And the scale here is actually pretty accurate. I think it could have been maybe a tad wider to simulate the one from the movie, but it's not that big a deal to me, really. It's pretty on the level for it. Here you've got scrape marks again if you look at these treads, they've got mud on them, and they do work. They don't feel real flimsy, like they're gonna break. The tank is heavy enough to where if you put this on a floor that has some grip, like hardwood or linoleum, laminate, that type of thing, it will move. And the treads, they just keep on going just fine. Minimal screw holes under here, only 4 of them. These, this tank turret here rotates about 180 degrees, a little less. These here rotate 360, although that's, you know, not needed, but it does do it. Rotate all the way backwards, straight up. The most I've seen it in the movie doing was like firing like this whenever they got attacked by the Saw Gerrera's partisans. They fired upward like this. So I've taken a few shots of it like in that position, but normally they're just going to be down like this. But again, we have to look at, I mean, look at the detailing on this. It's, see if we, how close we can focus. It is really, really great. I mean, this is like, you know, a model basically. And if you're a serious collector, or even just a, you know, a hobbyist, you understand that these models, they're not cheap at all. They're very expensive. So the price point for it, that's why I'm okay with it. I do wish it included at least one figure with it. But when you know, the vintage collection, when the last time that they had it back in 2013, the LAT Republic gunship from Toys R Us, that thing was $200. It did come with 3 figures in the bubble turrets, but it was still $200. The Slave One, it retailed for $70. Then you've got the TIE Interceptor, it retailed for $60. And these were all 5 to 8 years ago. So, you know, with inflation what it is, $79.99 is about expected. If they really wanted to do, you know, make a lot of people happy, they probably could have come in with it at $59.99, $49.99, but I didn't ever expect it to be that cheap, to be honest. And for what you're getting, you know, this isn't really a toy per se. I have kids, but this isn't something I would give to them because they're younger. This is made with the responsible kid or adult collector in mind, and that's why you get the premium packaging, the premium product. Take a look here. The figures, they don't come with it, but they're not super articulated, but it doesn't, this vehicle doesn't require that for them to fit. So I'll show you the inside of it here. Take this panel off here, which my nails aren't very long, but if you take a look there, it comes off fairly easy, and you've got the engine. Some nice detail on that. Really, really like that. And then the bottom of the panel even has detail on it. You got the weathering on that. It's got an actual texture to it, so this isn't just printed on. This is actually some type of a paint on there where you can feel its texture. And then it's got this little tab at the back, so it has to be put in like that. This port here, I had a little bit of trouble getting it off because I don't have nails. Actually, last time I got it off when I was taking these pictures of it last night, I had to use the end of a knife, but I might be able, there we go, if I pull up on his head it comes off. Now we have the inside of it. So as you see here, you've got a third, or a chair here, a second chair for another pilot basically. I think this is the driver. Over here you would have the gunner. If we take the figure out, both of these, they go back and forth. This one doesn't, but this one does for steering. You've actually got all kinds of little dials and gauges in here. You've got the pedals, the gear levers. This is a sticker. So I mean, there's a lot of detail in here. It's just really, really well done. You really have to see it in person to appreciate it before you can really give it a good judgment, I think. Look on the bottom of this. Well, we'll look at the top real quick. We got the hatch. Even the hatch here, this is textured. It's got texturing on it, really well made. Then you've got these radiators here, which connect to these fans down below, which will be circulating air inside the tank, so that the driver and the gunner don't suffocate basically, because they're in their helmets and then they're in this stuffy tank. So these fans, nice detail. You can even see the little individual blades on it. And then again here you can see the different paint variations. I mean, and this is actually textured too, so this is a nice paint app on it for sure. And then you've got the hatch here, which is where the commander would go. It closes if the crew wants to fully button up. You couldn't have somebody in here, of course, but you could still have the two and down in here. And this leads actually back here. It leads to this, and you can see it basically is just, you can go through there. So the feet of the commander are standing right in here. Now, the next thing we'll get to is the canisters, or the kyber crystal containers in the back. And I'll show you real quick. If we put this back on here, this is what it would look like displayed fully buttoned up. If they were to be under attack and they needed to take cover, the box for it says that the armor they wear is pretty minimal. They rely on the thick armor of their vehicle to protect them. So if you look at it from here, it looks very intimidating, especially when the driver and pilot are in it. You got this here, of course, like we mentioned, it swivels. I mean, I just think it's a really, really nice model, basically, is what I'm considering. I don't necessarily consider it a toy, even though it technically is. And these canisters, there's three. Three here now. One is heavier, and that's because it's actually functioning. These two are more for show, more or less, although on the outside they look exactly like this one, except you can tell this one here, the gaps or seams here are a little wider because it does open. But if we look here, I mean, look at all these little details. You've got this airbrush writing on here. I need to translate it. I'm sure it means something though. It's all over here on the latches. See if we can get real close on that. I mean, this is some work went into this. It really did. You can see the grading on it, the weathering here. It's actually textured again, so it's not printed on there. It is a paint. So like I said, they're all pretty much the same. We'll set this to the side, except for this one. So if we take it and it opens like this, and then these three and these three are just for show, but these three here actually, if you open them, they come out, and then you're left with kyber crystal containers. So we got three of them. They're all the same. So we'll just take one. You've got a little handle here, which will fit in the figure's hands. So if you want to make it look like they are carrying one or placing it into the tank, you just basically take their hand and press it down in there. I'm not sure which one it needs to be, because one is their trigger finger. I think it's more like this one. But if you get it just right, they will hold it. And then if you take it apart, it does come apart, you're left with kyber crystal. Now you'll see part of it's silver and part of it's brown, and each one has got a varying degree of this brown paint on it. And it's not a flaw in the paint app. What it actually is these crystals are mined on Jeddah, and then they are processed after they get from the Star Destroyer to the Imperial's processing facility. So they're in their raw form when they're mined, so they're going to have varying degrees of dirt and mud on them. And I'm glad they reflected that. And actually, you can actually feel it in there. There's that little handle again, and then you just go back on there, line up these little grooves, and there you have it. And then we'll just look. You've got the other ones here, different degree of dirt on it. So each one is individually painted. So I'm thinking these might be painted by hand, since I haven't seen any that are exactly alike. This one's got them on both ends. So I wanted to make sure I made that a point. I didn't want anyone to think this is just a flaw in the paint app. This is actually accurate to how they would be, and especially in the last few hours of the operation, when the Empire received word that the Death Star was going to destroy Jeddah City, they would have really been in a hurry, and so they definitely wouldn't have bothered to do anything to the kyber crystals besides get them out of the mine and throw them on these tanks to go to the Star Destroyer that was in low planet orbit. So these just go back in here like this. Reminds me of like Jurassic Park in the first one where they're putting the embryos in the shaving cream. They fit in there really nice, and it just buttons back up. Now on the tank, you've got this here, which is almost like a bed, like a pickup truck. These come out, they slide into the side. It's a nice secure fit, as you can see there. They're not going anywhere. And then inside, you've got pegs. You've got 4 sets, which means this will hold 4 additional figures in the back of it. So it can really be any, as long as they've got these footholes. In my pictures, if you take a look at those, I've got sand troopers in the back here with it, but basically they just go in there like that, and you can put any that you want in there, any that would be, you know, in this type of scene. So you can have death troopers, regular stormtroopers, sand troopers, anything like that would work. So if we take those out, these come back. They fit nicely in here, and they form the bed again. So then you've got that, which is support, and you take each one of these. It really doesn't matter which order they're in. If you look, they've got notches on both of them, and then you've got these notches here on the sides, and they're all the same, so you can put them in any order you want. I usually keep the one that's real here, and they actually will fit in either way, but if you look on the packaging, it's done with them, and this black piece is facing backwards, so I just did it to resemble that. And then once they're all in there, they're nice and secure. Now they're not going to stand to be turned upside down, but they don't rattle around or anything. They're in there really, really secure. And then you basically just put these figures in there however you want, and you can still display it without them, because they could still technically be in the tank, just with all the ports sealed. And the easiest way I found to get this off, if you don't have long nails, is to open up this hatch. Well, if I can get it. There we go. And use your finger like that to pop it off. Then the driver don't have to be super articulated to fit in here. They just go in like this. They made it well. The arms are the perfect length, or I should say they made the tank well, because the arms, or the steering wheel, comes out to the perfect length to allow you to put the driver's arms on them. I'm not going to do it right now. I did it in the pictures I took of it last night, but it is accurate, unlike the Han Solo land speeder I reviewed a while back, which the hands were nowhere near reaching the steering wheel. Again, it's just the premiumness of the vintage line, and it goes on there perfectly like that, and then you're left with the driver peeking out there. And then the tank commander, you can pose him however you want. If you want to put this arm down where he's not waving his rifle around, you know, one arm out like that. Looks pretty good. So in conclusion, do I think it's worth the price? I think it's on the steep end of what it's worth. It definitely is, and it would be better if it included a figure, but I don't think it's necessarily overpriced. Now I know there's going to be people that disagree with that, but I have a pretty extensive collection. I've bought thousands of pieces of Star Wars merchandise, and I know what the high-end, more premium stuff can run you. It's just not cheap. So, you know, and this is what I consider to be a premium product. All the vintage line really is. So, you know, the figures are $12.99 each. Man, it stands to reason the vehicles are going to be a lot more than that, because it's a substantial amount more of product. I know the plastic in this is nowhere near the retail price, but a lot of work goes into making each one of these, because some of this is hand applied. It really just has to be based on what I'm seeing from it here. So if you want to, you know, wait and see if it goes on clearance, for some certain retailers it could, like the Slave One got down to $30, and now it's selling for, you know, anywhere from $300 to $500 on eBay. So you never really know, but if you like to be an early adopter and have a piece that's going to look awesome and wouldn't look out of place in a realistic diorama, then this is definitely something for you, because it is really good, and you could add a few more details of your own if you like to paint, you know, and weather your own models. But Hasbro has really done a good job getting this to people, you know, in a basic condition that it could really be put into any type of realistic diorama type use, and it wouldn't look out of place. So that is the Combat Assault Hover Tank. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments or on the Facebook page, where I have posted a gallery of 40 pictures to show you just how good this can look you know, whenever you get the lighting just right, and edit out the pictures to make them you know, look cropped out and everything. They really came out nice. You know, take a look at that if you want to see this better than a video can portray it. And tomorrow I'm going to have I got a new item today. I'm going to have pictures of it tomorrow and a video of it, hopefully on Sunday. But this is it. It is the new Enfys Nest swoop bike, along with the Enfys Nest figure. So make sure you, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and enable notifications, and you'll be able to see that as soon as it goes live. And I'll do an extensive photo gallery and video review on it. If you like the video, give it a like. That would help out a lot. Appreciate everybody's support. I hope you have an enjoyable weekend, and may the force be with you.